Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Greg. It's a lovely November was it November 9th? Wednesday, November 9th, 2023. And so pretty much what I want to share with you today, a couple of things. I wanted to talk to you about like some of my viewpoints as to the election yesterday, and so pretty much how the election turned out. I also want to talk to you today about just pretty much some of the things about Kyrie Irving and things that he was explaining and things that he's going through. Um, the last time I talked, I spoke about like how we needed to boycott the NBA, and to pretty much boycott the NBA is one of the best things to do for us because what we need to do is that we need to start getting back our own things. And pretty much, if a person doesn't appreciate you, they don't spend time with them. And so, in the case of a situation where if a person doesn't appreciate your skills, or even a company doesn't appreciate your skills, you don't need to focus on them. You start working towards making your own, find another company, or pretty much doing something all different all together. And so, pretty much how it seems is like what I've learned from the whole thing with Kyrie Irving is that he's not gonna quit or gonna go to gonna quit or do another position. He might just kind of just hang in there. And so, I've been listening to some of his views and different points of views. And one thing I've been thinking about is regarding how when you like look at the situation there, how pretty much how life is in terms of like how things work out. What you do is that you need to spend some time evaluate your life. Now, in this situation, I wanted to read you some of the demands that you probably already heard what they have for him to do, and so I'll read you the demands that they have for him. The demands he has from the list, according to Shams, to the list that he has to do. He has to apologize and condemn the film he promoted. He has to make a $500,000 donation to anti hate causes, complete sensitivity training, complete anti-Semitism training, meet with the ADL and Jewish leaders, meet with the team owner Joe Tsai to demonstrate an understanding of the situation. And so, pretty much, a lot of people who talked about said that nobody would think to do something like that because the thing is, he'd have to condemn the movie that he is promoting. And I think was he just promoted the link, and we all said that doesn't make any sense. That why would he have to go through the whole situation of making a link and making a thing when in fact it's like he just has a link that he made, And so what he could do is that he could have it where he's able to just he could say sorry for hurting people or for their for their hurt. But as for condemning the movie that is presented, I mean, Amazon itself didn't condemn the movie that's presented. Amazon itself didn't say, hey, this movie is no good, you shouldn't have it. Or this book link isn't good, you shouldn't have it. Instead, what they did is that they continued to have the link, and they continue to make money from the link. And so when Kyrie decides to post the link is when they decide to go ahead and attack him for that. And so I always had the philosophy: if you give somebody peanut butter and jelly sandwich and the person just explodes on you, they explode on you in a rage. What that tells me is that they're not really they weren't mad at the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It says what it tells me is that they were actually they were mad not at the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They were actually mad at something else. So, for example, I believe that they were mad at him not because of the things that he did or the thing that he said, but because of the thing he did with the whole the mandates not getting the jobs. He stood against the entire establishment with that and said, "I'm not putting anything poison into my body." And because that is, they had him on leave, like anybody who went through this, know that if you in our case I couldn't wear a mask, and so I was put on leave of absence myself. And so what happens is that you are put on leave of absence, you're not able to do the thing you love, so you start thinking of other ways. And then when he came back now and vindicated by the law, saying that the jabs did nothing to stop transmission, the jabs did nothing to stop the scenario that was at hand. And so what happened? They were able to come to grips and say that you are vindicated. So that was one. The next thing too is he didn't have to do anything. But now I think because he did that, they're actually standing against him for that. And that's what I think the main problem is. That's what I think the problem is in general, because if he's able to be able to do this, then it's going to be, hey, somebody else could do this too. Anyway, so first one, apologize. He said sorry already. The man already said sorry. To condemn the film he promoted was to make a $500,000 donation to anti-hate cause. Well, he didn't. He already gave the money and they took it back from him. They didn't want him to have it, so they actually didn't want him to they rejected his money. So he should give to some other cause. Like Amazing Lucas said that you should give it to you just stick it to them. You should give it to a Hebrew Israelite or some kind of Ethiopian cause to help the understand keep it real. And see, next, complete sensitivity training. I mean, that is just in of itself ridiculous because by him posting something does not mean that he is in need of sensitivity training. What it means is that he's this is they're really trying to do something to him that they really shouldn't do. And I feel as though that one of the things that that's not cool about all this is that when you put a person into a situation like that, it's demoralizing. They're taking away from the man's ability to make decisions. So he is like he's forced to have to make a decision. He's forced to have to apologize as well as give money and now complete sensitivity training. That's like a re-education right there. When they put you through a re-education situation, it's like I don't think that's a real good thing. I think it's not fair that a person should go through that kind of like lesson or classes because you know he didn't say anything. He has no hatred in his heart. It's just misunderstanding in terms of like the people who attacked him didn't attack the company Amazon or the link or even Jeff Bezos or anybody who had this because the link was on there since 2015. And so that's one of those things there that you look back that you realize it's actually much of a witch hunt. Well, what I found out just recently yesterday when I was listening to the information that there's a thing where he had there's no rules in the book that says anything about this. There's no rules. There's no written statement as to you shall be punished in such a manner, and no punishment for posting anything online. And so because he posted something that had no rules against it, he is in the green. Like the green screen behind me. He's in the green. He shouldn't have to be forced to do any of these things because what happens is that he was actually in the green to where he can actually be able to make a decision and do his own thing. So long story short, what I'm trying to say is that when you have all the scenarios there, all in the played out, it's like they're messing with a grown man making a decision about stuff. They're messing with a grown man that he can be able to do his own thing, and instead of them just doing that, there are I mean he didn't do anything wrong. He did no actions like a Dr. Umar says, they get punished for words but not for actions. And so he had no actions against them, but there are many people in society that have done many actions against any culture, any ethnic group, and what happens is like they either say sorry and they have to do like they said sorry and they kind of go on with it. Water on the bridge, let's keep going. But in this case with Kyrie, they want him to like want him to go through the whole 9 yards of like hey, I'm sorry, hey, let me get some training, hey, let me continue to be whatever you want me to be, and then pretty much just be able to play. And they could do too after that, like as Lucas was saying, that they can actually just go ahead and say like what, we're not going to give you anything anyway. You're going to still have you five game suspension, still going to have you pay the money, still, and they still not have you play. And so since you're coming up to retirement, we're gonna make you sit out until the end of the thing, and no one's ever see your face again. To which I say that's messed up, and they should never do something like that. The other thing too is what I'm looking at. I'm seeing for myself is that they said that because there's no thing on the books that says they can't do this, then he's in the green and he could lawyer up and he can go against them, NBA, because there was nothing that says he couldn't post a link and that there was nothing of that matter, and they're really blowing something up that they really should have actually put to rest at this point. Um, on another note, I want to talk to you about like they want to meet with the team owner, Josiah, to demonstrate understanding of the situation. See, all the things that he did, all the things there, they could have actually had a different way about this. Instead of that, they chose to do this. And when they did that, it's one of those things where they, instead of them doing the right thing, they made it into a spectacle. And as a spectacle, you have it where, you're making a big problem for yourself. And when you make a big problem for yourself, you make a big problem for a lot of people. And so, he's made a problem. They made a problem for him. And all he did was post a link. Remember that. At the end of the day, he just posts a link. I mean, we all post links all the time. I post links like every day, and then I get stuff I'm working on. But for the most part, though, I just want to say that that's crazy. Next, on to another note. The other note is I want to talk to you about the elections. Now, my wife and I, we went through to the whole thing about the elections, and we went through just making sure to go and vote, and so the place that we went to vote, last time we went to go vote, they had a situation where they said you can't go unless you have a mask or you have and all these things. So we were like, we can't go there. We're not going to do it. So anyway, so what happened was that we decided to say to ourselves like, well, we can't do that. Let's go ahead and we couldn't vote during the what was it, the I guess it was the primaries? Oh no, before the general election. So this is the general election yesterday, but before the primaries, we weren't able to vote, unfortunately, because we wouldn't let us in. Anyway, so long story short, what happened was this: we had decided to go, and we had delivery yesterday to do because I do artwork, and some artwork I make with masking tape, and then so with masking tape I'm able to turn this into like that guy right here behind me, you see. and so we're able to make some really complex designs and things. You can make complex things like this here. We make like really cool, like and complex, like little gremlins and things. And we can do that. So for the most part, though, this is something we do. But for the what I wanted to say was that when you have our city, we went through so much. New York City went through so many things. Now, we have continued to go through so many things, and New York is as a place where, as you look into the whole 9 yards of everything, it's one of those things where they were the Corona was a Corona site of the world, and they had all these things. So I made a couple videos, and I went to East Elmer, went to the Elmer's Hospital, and then Elmer's Hospital, I went over there and I drove around several times around it, and different days just to see the intensity. And there were oftentimes there was nobody around. It was like they had long lines in the news, but when you go there in person, there's no lines. And the same thing happened with the Comfort ship, the HMS Comfort, no, the HMS US, yeah, okay, it was the USS, the UHS, I guess, hospitals. Anyway, so Comfort, the Comfort ship, right? We had that situation where it was empty there too. It was empty at many hospitals. We went to Flushing Hospital. We went to a lot of hospitals, and just calling them out, they were very empty. They were empty. Nobody was there. When I mean nobody, I mean they had tents in the back, and in the tents there was nobody there. We went by the hospital, and there was no long lines and all these things. But throughout New York, went through so much, and things were shut down. People couldn't work. They had long lines. They had to invent all these shanty houses outside of the stores, the restaurants, and things like that. You had people couldn't work their jobs. You had people who had to those who drove had to put up a stupid like a barrier between them and all that, and all these stupid rules that kept on coming down. And finally, they realized that Cuomo was a bad dude, and they didn't get him for for the people that quote unquote he killed because of the stuff that he did. No, they didn't get him for that. No, they got him for some kind of a harassment situation. So he drops out, and then they put this lady in Hochul. So they put a lieutenant governor in Hochul, and so she becomes or is interim governor Hochul for like 1 year, and so she's going in and she's just tearing the place up and doing stuff. And then you would think that people would have enough of this, having all these things happen and having requirements upon requirements upon requirements. But no, America, New York wants to be the first one to have first. You want to have the first female governor of New York, and they have her, as opposed to something the company would need, that the company of New York would need. And so instead of us getting back on track and dealing with things like crime and MTA and people getting losing money and businesses and their life, not to mention getting back to normal, it was one of those things where she and Adams, Mayor Adams, are just, in my opinion, they're a bunch of lunatics, and they're just doing whatever they can because it's just towing the party lines. And then so finally you have Lee Zeldin come in, and he's going to make a big difference here. I really think he would have made a big difference because, I mean, the race was so close. I think what happened was maybe the people who would leave to like different states like Florida and to Texas, they left us because it's really bad here in New York in terms of like opportunities and businesses and taxes. Taxes are crazy, and what happens is like you are faced with the scenario that we need about maybe 300,000 more people just to vote in order to turn the election in the way of Lee Zeldin. But I mean, we did go out to vote, and my wife and I, Amy, my wife and I, we went to Amy, who was my wife, we went to the voting booth, and it was a very pleasant experience. And they didn't ask us to wear a mask, and they didn't bother us about anything. And so we were able to kind of go there, and to have a really good time there. So we went there, and we were able to like just talk and do our stuff and cast our votes and vote against all the propositions and all these things and vote against I mean, and they still won. I don't understand. It's like AOC has done nothing for New York, for New York's this area that we live in. We live in her district, and she has done nothing. She has done nothing. She's just towing the party line, trying to push forth the Green New Deal. That's all she wants to do, regardless of whatever it takes. They had the video before and how it was when she's up there in the Bronx, and they had a couple things, and they said, they're stinking warmongers. They want people to die in the whole Ukraine thing. Have people have a nuclear war like any second. And so then we have Schumer, and Schumer to do nothing. Personally, he's been there forever. He's to do nothing, and he continues to do nothing. But he gets voted. I don't understand it. I mean, it's like in my mind, it's like the people have been beaten. They've been beaten and beaten and beaten. They've gone through restriction after restriction. Businesses have gotten shut down. People got to the point where some people have taken their lives. Some people have lost their sanity. Some lost their family, lost friendships, lost their job, ability to work, make money for their family. And then you have these people come in, and they have an opportunity to vote for somebody else, and it really is the people who really suggest and they seek after their own oppression. I look back and I say to myself, I cannot believe that people are willing to actually have their own oppression, and they go to the part where they're willing to do this and have you pick your poison. And that's the one thing I don't understand about this. So I look at this and I say to myself, of all the things to happen, is for the things to continue. And so it's like, I've been a lifelong New York person. I wasn't born here, but I grew up here in New York, and I've been in New York. I mean, all these things. I met my wife here in Times Square. I got a chance to share the gospel to people in Times Square. I got to know the Lord here in New York, and I got the chance to meet the Lord, accept Christ as my Savior when I was 7 here in New York. I've had all my children here, all 4 of my kids here in New York. I went to school here in New York. Elementary, junior high school. It was from elementary, junior high school here in New York. And so I have New York is a really big place for me. I asked my wife to marry me here in New York, in Central Park and everything. I've gone to the museums. I've done the Museum of Natural History. I pretty much lived there. I've all these different things. A lot of my art and stuff like that comes from the Museum of Natural History, and just being able to make creatures and things. So I look at that and I say to myself, it's one of those things where it's like, all these things that you have, and you're working on things, and what happens is, like, New York has, it's like the people have chosen to be oppressed. They have chosen. It's like people choose to be oppressed more than anything else. It's like I don't understand it, and that's very confusing for me, because it's like, when given the choice to be free or to have safety, people will choose safety over freedom. You know, and they did that, and they really put everybody into a situation where it's like, how can you pick that which oppresses you, and continue to pick that which oppresses you? It's like, it doesn't. It's so confusing to me, and so it's like, I know I'm just praying, ask God for wisdom, what we should do as a family. And pretty much one of those things, because, like, you look around and you see the news, you hear what's on TV, you see what's there, and what it does is that they just keep doing stuff. They keep just doing stuff. They keep doing things that you really don't know what they're going to do next. But people had a chance to choose, and they chose for their oppression. Now, I don't know what's going to come down the line in terms of taxes. I mean, I could look into it, or in terms of, like, what they're going to do with regarding all the jab mandates and all the different things like that. So this is, like, truly significant scenario where we are, like, at the mercy of rulers that the people themselves picked. And so, I mean, talk about the thing with democracy and all that stuff. We know we're not a democracy; we're a constitutional republic. But the means of which we acquire our representatives is by democracy, by democratic processes. We vote, and the majority rules to, you know, to pick a person. And when we pick that person, it's I'm just baffled. I really am baffled about this. So in light of all these things, we're continuing to work on our stuff, and we're just asking God for wisdom what we should do. But for the most part, though, just pray for us here in New York, because we've got the same. They just continue the same poisoning. I mean, and the people picked it, and I do not understand why they would do that. We went out and voted. We voted against everybody who's running, who won yesterday. Okay, and so pretty much it was one of those things where we felt really good about it, but now I feel like this is really um, the people. It's such a weird process. I mean, they have to kind of find a way to make peace between the two, because for all the years, what they keep doing is that whenever the one side wins, they oppress the other side. And it really is oppression, because what happens is, like, the other side wins. Like, if for example, you have the election stuff, they were going for years with from Hillary was saying about how Trump didn't win the election for years. And so finally, Trump gets in and he says, "Well, Biden," and they're saying, "No, it's fair and election." And it's not like the same kind of scrutiny on both sides. It's always like one-sided, always one way to attack, always one way to attacking, as opposed to it being a both-way attack. And when a both-way, it becomes fair and balanced. But instead, what happens? It becomes a one-way attack. And if another person says they don't listen to the other side, and it's one-way attack. And it's so not right. It's really not a right scenario. So, well, I just want to say, I'm going to end on this note, but pretty much that, you look at the situation here and how things play out, and honestly, it's really messed up, but God is in control. And we know that God is in control. God is in control of everything. Sometimes these things happen to make us more consider our ways and consider the days, because, the things that we are faced with are, are things out of our control anyway. It's like, how many of us have control over all the stuff that we're in anyway? We're not. We're really kind of at the mercy of life, but we don't want to be victims. What we can control, we can work on, we work on. And so you don't want to definitely be a person who just kind of just goes along, but you have to be wise in everything you do. The Bible says, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. They have removed the fear of the Lord from schools, from life, from movies, and they've given us garbage. And from there, we have to kind of sift through garbage to find chunks of goodness. So it goes back to what I would say before, or what I've been saying now lately, is a circle of three. What Dr. Boyce said. He said, one, you train your children. The Bible says, train up your child in the way he should go, and when he's old, it will not depart from it. When they're older, it will not depart from it. You train your own children, because the school system was never meant for them to train our kids. It was just a industrial revolution created this new pocket, and the pocket became a thing to where it could dumb down and make more employees. So you train your children to be wise. Number two, the second one is that you have your own businesses. Okay, and you find your business, you do your business, you make a business, you change this world, and you provide some kind of a benefit to society. If it's to make bread, you make bread. If it's to to plant things and provide food and crops, you do that. If it's for you to walk dogs and take care of animals and become a veterinarian or something, or for you to make things or to work in a place where you bring value to mankind, and that's your job to do that, to provide and bring that type of blessing to society. And so that's your thing. So first one is teach your children. The second one is to have your own business. The third one is to make your communities. And in the Black community, there's many times the Black community, we get caught up with all the things they put out there to trap us up. There's the culture. The ability to think down the road is a skill that everyone should really master. It's like playing chess. When you play chess, the first move you start thinking about your third and your fourth and your fifth move, even how you're going to try and beat the game. Because what happens is that you're just looking at the situation when you play your first move. And sometimes the people on the left, they have an inability to see the future. I had a conversation with my friend, a body paint artist, my friend Andy, and he said, Andy Golub, and he said that I said to him that we were talking, and long story short, one of the things we were saying was that the ability of talking to many people too as well, the ability of people to see the end, be able to see the end is kind of sometimes hard for people to do. We have to be able to see the present as well as see the future of our decisions. So for example, you have a problem with somebody, eventually that problem is gonna manifest itself. If, for example, you have no problem with somebody, then you won't see if it's a broadside. But if you put something in the game, you put something in the oven to cook, you know it's gonna make a cake. So if you put something in place, okay, like for example, these crime bills that they say, a person has the reform bills, and they do have it where they don't like in their neighborhood. There's a Walgreens that was so ransacked that they had to kind of lock everything up. So we have it where you have to ask one of the workers to leave the front or leave the side, leave whatever they're doing, to come with you with a key to unlock detergent or something. And so because of that, it becomes like I think where because what happens to cops would people get arrested, call the cops would come, take the person, and then like a couple hours they release the person come back and rob the store again. It would be like a cycle of deplorable, a cycle of a bad vicious cycle of just of going round and round and round and round of just doing what it's just robbing and taking and robbing and taking and coming back again. It's like they get out, they go back in again, because the laws in New York are abysmal. Okay, they're crazy. And so we voted against the people who won, and we hope that this will not become as bad as we think. Like how like when Biden won, the very first thing he does, he goes and messes with the stinking pipeline. And they were working on a project, and he just starts knocking out things in his executive orders. And he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna rule by executive orders." And no one, only a tyrant rules by executive orders, he says. And here he is ruling by executive orders. And nobody has any stock in him anyway. But then again, you have your Clintons, and you have your Clintons and your Obama, and they go over there and they shake hands with Fetterman, and he wins, and they're like, that's crazy. That's really crazy, because it's like I don't know how to define that, because here you have a situation where the man has brain damage, and there's Dr. Oz, and I wouldn't have voted for Dr. Oz either, but I wouldn't have voted for Fetterman. So it's like, but that's Pennsylvania, because I'm like, I would have voted for maybe that lady who we call crazy, and who Hannity was calling her crazy and all that stuff, because she was talking some things about regarding conspiracy theories, which we know to be true. Over it proves itself. It's a matter of things. Like one thing that happened, a lot of us got called conspiracy theorists throughout the entire 2020, and 2020 events that we were saying, don't take this thing. This thing is not going to work. And they were like, oh, how do you know that? I said, well, we know based upon how other things work in the past. And he says, well, how do you know this was going to work? A slow to curve, stop the spread, slow to curve, 15 days to slow the spread, right? All that madness. Yeah, that really worked. Yep. So many fights we've had, many have lost friendships, many have destructed, a lot of things. But long story short, what has happened is that we've come to understand that those who are meant to be with you will be with you, and those who are meant to fall off will fall off. Like like fruit, or like leaves. They will leave you when it's time for them to leave, and you'll have new friends come in that you need to have with you. Anyway, long story short, I'm just going to end it right there, because what happens, I can go on forever with this. But I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and please hit the bell to subscribe to our channel. My name is Greg. I do masking tape artwork. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we do as I leave. And pretty much, some of the things that we do. I wanted to say thank you so much for, for listening, and thank you for that. We can do all kind of artwork and all kind of things, as you can see here, and we make really cool creatures and things. We can make anything in masking tape. So just I just want to say thank you so much again for looking and for watching my page, watching my videos. I wish you all the best. Have a good night. God bless you, and pray for us here in New York, because people got in that we're not sure how they got in, but they got in, and so it seems like the people chose to be oppressed. So, all right. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.